Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Boss Rush Podcast, a great place to play games and be better. I am your host, LeRon Dawkins, a.k.a. the PC Muscle Race. And alongside me, as always, is the one, the only, the Mad Pharmacist, Stephanie Bob.
Ooh, I thought I was going second. Hey.
You're almost always second. What? Come on.
LeRon's mad at me. It's fine.
Yeah, I am actually. You know, then there's that guy over there, Corey Derrick.
Hello, LeRon. I can leave if you want. It's fine.
Hey, Corey. What's up?
Hello.
No, you're not going nowhere. You're locked in.
LeRon, let me tell you a story. LeRon.
Oh, boy. Here
I just
we go.
told Stephanie off air, but I'm telling you on air.
Uh-huh.
I was on my way home tonight, and my car started acting funny, and realized that transmission fluid leaked out of my car, and now I have none. And so I'm hoping that I can get my car to the shop that is literally 30 seconds from my house tomorrow.
Just push it.
Not on a 5-lane highway.
Then it's not 30 seconds away from your house then.
It is. I make a left. My street goes out on my street basically goes on to like the entrance ramp to the highway.
Is that safe?
Well, like it's not really the entrance ramp, but like there's the main street, and then there's a light, and then there's the entrance ramp to the highway. So like, it's fine.
Well, I wish you the best because I
don't have to get on the highway. I just have to go.
Yeah, transmission stuff is that feels like a nightmare to me. So I wish you the best.
Yeah, it is. It feels like one a little bit.
All right. Well,
it's fine.
Well, now that you know, like Corey's like giving us another one of his world's saddest stories. I love you, Corey. I want to go ahead and take a moment to welcome a guest tonight to the show. They go by the name Sam Reeder over at the Boss Rush Network, website. You can catch a lot of their contributions over in Boss Rush Banter and some of our features. Let me go ahead and introduce Sam Reeder to the show tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sam Reeder. It's very nice to meet you all. First time, you. Really.
By the way, we love having a cherry on the show.
So a little bit of a jitters.
You always remember you first.
Normally, I write a lot about horror and some things about video games. And I'm
all right. So, how's everybody doing tonight? Everyone having fun? Everyone doing the damn thing?
To be with these cool people tonight.
Doing the damn thing.
I feel great. Thanks for asking, LeRon.
Good. Yeah. I actually care about you, Corey. I mean, like when you're not getting on my last damn nerve.
I'm your favorite.
You are.
We'll talk later. It'll be fine.
A little bit.
All right. So real quickly here, for everyone out there, we have this thing called the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com /Boss Rush Network, you can go ahead, pick a tier, subscribe to it. As little as $1 gets you a whole bunch of like perks, including like early access to content, particularly our pre-show, which we just wrapped recording not too long ago. You also get early access to some of our other banner shows as well. As always, though, your viewership and listenership are more than enough for us. So right now, as you're checking out this stream, or if you're watching this video in the future when it actually publishes live on YouTube, please like this video, hit the subscribe button, even share it. And after you get through watching it, leave some comments. We'd love to hear from you on that. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or even if you don't, please leave us a rating, a nice review on those platforms. If you're not a listener, we're not going to judge. We just want your positive thoughts and your positive reviews. You can find all of our other stuff, such as banters, features, listicles, reviews, and much more, much more on our website, bossrush.net. All right. I'm obligated. I'm obligated to do this portion of the show. So I guess I got to ask Corey and Stephanie and our guest Sam Reeder tonight if there's anything going on that you want our listeners and viewers to be aware of coming down the pipe.
Well, LeRon, let me tell you what I got coming down the pipe. I got some retrospective stuff, videos for YouTube, because we need some of that content on Switch 1 stuff before Switch 2 launches.
Nice.
So I'm also revisiting some other classic consoles launch lineups, which could be interesting or not. We'll see. Some of that Luigi's Mansion. Some what else did we talk about recently? I don't even remember. It's so good. I don't even remember. Street Fighter 4 3D on 3DS.
What?
That was a weird launch game.
Okay.
It was Street Fighter and Nintendogs. And
I
cats.
remember that.
Mm.
I was working at GameStop. I was working at GameStop at the time when that was going down.
And Steel Diver, for some reason. I thought that was a good launch title.
I don't remember that.
It was a submarine game.
Nope.
It was like a Metroidvania submarine game.
How does that even make sense?
I don't know. I didn't make it. Nintendo did. Just telling you what it was.
And that explains it.
Song of the Deep, an Insomniac game.
Weirdly,
published by GameStop. Did you know that, LeRon?
There are 3
Game Trust, I guess,
search
which
action
was
games
GameStop's publishing arm for 10 minutes.
Steel Diver, The Aquatic Adventures of the Last Human, and I think Song of the Deep.
Yeah.
I get those other 2 confused a lot.
Oh, yep. GameStop.
Stephanie, you got anything anything important that you want the listeners, viewers to know about?
No, but
that I didn't know.
Because PAX is in 2 weeks. After that, my roster shall be filling up with a plethora of game developer and publisher interviews. So
awesome.
I promise soon.
Awesome.
Hooray.
Sam, you got anything you want to put out there?
Badass.
Mm.
Oh, I know about that book. I've never read it, but I know about that book.
I mean, apart from Boss Rush, I'm in my final year of my column at Reactor Magazine, where I'm basically going through the entirety of a book called The Dark Descent. The column's called Dissecting. Yeah, no. I pitched it basically on the fact that it's about yay big. So I know I could get like at least a decent amount of time before I had to figure out what next to do. But it's a book of like classic horror stories, and the idea was, it was like put together as the definitive anthology of horror in 1986. And given that we're now like 40, 50 years hence from that, how does it hold up? What else, does it hold? Like, how many of this stuff was ahead of its time, how it aged, all that sort of stuff. And so I'm basically going through and, kind of like picking apart things and looking at, the guts of the story and stuff like that. So that's really cool. Yeah, I've also got an article that's in like my second round of drafts.
How punk is Cyberpunk going to be on Switch 2?
And exactly how punk and cyberpunk it actually is. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's sort of how I ended up figuring out the Boss Rush Banter I just published recently on We Should Let Games Cook. Yep. Oh goddamn. If they don't have the same disasters they had porting it the first couple of times, like if they actually, figure out where, the location of both their head and their ass before they start porting shit, I'd say it's at least got a chance. I mean, the plot is very into, the whole punk thing of basically like, I am here, I'm alive, I matter, my autonomy against this gigantic, like vast, enmeshed series of cogs matters. It's very much about essentially like trying to figure out how to hold on to your life and hold on to your humanity.
To be fair, The Witcher 3 on Switch was
like kind
playable.
Of yanks it away at every opportunity. So
when it was,
I'm hopeful, but at the same time, I know what happens with CD Projekt Red and
the Xbox 360 version
because I saw what happened with the Witcher port, the Witcher 2 port, the Witcher 3 port, and the Cyberpunk ports. So, they have a track record on this shit.
I'm gonna bite the bullet for everybody and play Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 2 when it comes out.
I was actually considering getting it on Switch 2. That and Elden Ring, just because I can.
Yeah, and the Witcher 1 ports are all vaporware.
Someone's got to do it.
The things we do for Pow Block, huh?
I might be wrong about that.
Check out new episodes of Pow Block every Monday on your podcast service of choice. You can do that.
Well, I like how Stephanie mentioned Elden Ring because like that's our first topic for tonight. Actually,
what?
Ooh, what a clever transition!
Yeah, like I like it. Yeah. All right, so. Yeah. So, in a landmark moment for modern gaming, Elden Ring has surpassed 30 million copies shipped worldwide, cementing its place among the biggest games of all time. From Software's open-world dark fantasy masterpiece continues to captivate players with its challenging gameplay and rich lore, breaking records and setting new standards for the industry.
Segue.
But as its phenomenal success unfolds, what lies ahead for the franchise, and what factors have fueled its enduring popularity? I feel like a rabid fan base has fueled this enduring popularity, but I could be wrong. If this milestone not only cements Elden Ring as From Software's most successful title, but also among its icons like Breath of the Wild, among icons like these Breath of the Wild and Cyberpunk 2077 are not From Software games, so please don't get it twisted. We do have a Switch 2 port coming up. And a co-op spin-off on the horizon. This game's influence is still expanding. A perfect chance to reflect on what made Elden Ring resonate for deeply with so many players. So, panel, let's break this down. So, first of all, what's the magic about Elden Ring? What is it?
Well, personally, just having watched FromSoft come up over the past like decade or so, FromSoft very much like kind of fosters a very cult fan base. Like it nurtures like this very rabid cult following. It's a combination of players that can basically like really dig into some parts and not into other parts. They can try and like figure out, interpret what all this means for themselves. They're given very little, but the return on their investment is a lot. Basically, you get out what you put in, and a lot of people are willing to put in a lot to it. Elden Ring actually like manages to merge that with the problem with a lot of FromSoft games is that they're widely inaccessible. Like even without the difficulty and the bugs and everything in the mix, a lot of people are intimidated by the idea of the get good fan base, and the get good fans, which it's kind of more of an ironic thing within things like people going skill issue because it's you figure it out for yourself as you go. You choose your own methods through the game, and if they don't work, then maybe try something else that feels a little better. But Elden Ring is honestly the easiest inroad 2 and most
All right,
successful game FromSoft has created.
let
especially
me ask
because
this,
Bloodborne,
and
the
because
previous
it
most
looks like you,
successful entry,
Sam, are
was
like the
only
expert
available
here
on
on
PlayStation.
Elden Ring.
So I think
All right,
the combination
all
of
right, so like with
accessibility and
this
this already
jaw-dropping
rabid
milestone that
fan
we have with
base
the 30
that
with the 30
everybody's
million
like, I
copies
gotta know what
shipped
the
and
hell
stuff like
they're
that.
talking about.
How do you say it stacks up against
Really,
like
really
the
boosted
giants
it
like
up.
Skyrim or The Witcher 3, for example? Hmm.
I think it's a different kind of thing. Um, Elden Ring is very much trying to be basically like just a more accessible FromSoft game for the most part. And FromSoft is a very different animal from most RPGs, even though a lot of RPGs have taken inspiration. We have the whole Souls-like genre. We have the fact that Witcher 3, this prequel, Witcher 2, was actually heavily influenced by the fact that they kept having to drag the dev team away from playing Demon's Souls and Dark Souls to work on their own game again. And you can see that influence in things like the Kraken fight, some of like the really close quarters duels that require you to work out a mechanics and work out the boss's defensive timing. But one of the strengths I think FromSoft has had is that it has never ever been anything like, you cannot look at a FromSoft game and go, this is anything but a FromSoft game. Like, you can see the obvious influences they take from somewhere else, but it's very much their own thing. And I think that uniqueness is in fact the special sauce. I don't really stack it up against like Witcher 3 or Skyrim, because those games are trying to do different things. They're trying to be like within a tradition of a specific kind of RPG or a specific kind of thing. You have Skyrim taking a lot of influence from stuff like Ultima Underworld that then moved into Arena and Daggerfall and so on and so forth.
All right. So
Witcher
here's something
3
that I think
basically
can kind of get everybody like into the mix right now.
That games have sort of flirted with but that was the game I feel that like, kind of cemented.
Let's just put it this way:
with From
Software going
so
from
they're
like
all
cult
impressive,
favorite, like
their
developer
own specific
to now like an industry titan, thanks to Elden Ring and stuff like that. Of course, actually, FromSoft has been doing pretty well. Like we got Elden Ring, we got Armored Core 6. I think I'm missing something. I know I'm missing something because they had at least 3 that we can consider like current titles. But one of them is slipping my mind right now. With this route they're going, and they also pushed out Shadow of the Erdtree, which is DLC content, DLC expansion content for the game and stuff. Guys, do you think they should double down on punishing difficulty, or just adapt to become a more broader audience? Which, as Sam already pointed out, like it looks like they're doing just that.
I mean, I think it would behoove them just to keep at it for a little while, just to obtain that additional like player base. Doesn't mean they can't always go back and release something, kind of back to its, you know, original form, so to speak. I'm outside of that very passionate player base, so I don't know. Maybe Sam, if you have heard if the hardcore fans complained about this accessibility, if it was I don't know. I really haven't heard anybody complain. Mm, right. Well,
Oh, they haven't. Nobody's really complained. Which is actually kind of
Sekiro,
cool about the whole
that's the
thing.
game.
Is that
That's the game.
no and also like weirdly.
And I also want to thank our boy Matt for also reminding me about that.
so
Like there was a
I
guy
guess
who
with
was
that
like,
being said, I
I'm
think
30 minutes into
keep
Sekiro and
at
I
it, and I
can't get past
wonder
this,
if
and everybody was like,
Dusk
we believe in
Bloods
you, you can
will
do it.
follow
And then there
that
was like
route
a
because
post
that's
like further down.
at least the
Yeah,
timed
Sekiro, Shadows
exclusive that
Die
will come to
Twice,
Switch
the,
2.
the most metal
I
rhythm
know it's
game
not the
ever
same
created.
genre, so please don't give us 1-star reviews. But as an outsider, it's
Thank
almost
you,
kind of
Matt.
like how Capcom made Monster Hunter Monster Hunter Rise like slightly more accessible to those that aren't already Monster Hunter
God, I hope
diehard
so.
fans, and so they got more
Hope so.
people to want to play it. So I'm like, I always like to celebrate these highly beloved franchises that fortunately or unfortunately have a bit more of a niche fan base. And now, hey, when more people can enjoy those type of games, the better.
You know what? You invoked Monster Hunter, so now LeRon and Matthew have entered the chat.
Actually, I wanted to point out one of Matt's comments now, which is good to know. Monster Hunter fans complain more about an accessibility adjustment than from soft fans. Interesting.
You know what? As a long-standing Monster Hunter fan and player, like I've been playing the series since its inception in 2004 and stuff like that. The average Monster Hunter fan that does these type of complaints don't really have a leg to stand on because like the Western audience is why like Capcom basically stopped producing games in the West for a hot minute. You know, like nobody got it. Like it was a poorly reviewed game and stuff like that. Like the people who actually stuck with it, we were the cult following because I actually modded a PS2 so I could start importing Monster Hunter games that were not being produced in the States and stuff like that. You know, so these fans are complaining about accessibility because guess what? I love the hell out of Rise. But I just realized, you know, when Monster Hunter Wilds was coming out and it was going back to the more traditional format that Monster Hunter World started, I was like, I have to stop playing Rise because I'm gonna carry some bad habits with me into the new game. But yeah, so Monster Hunter fans, like, y'all need to shut the hell up. But we'll talk about we'll talk more about that though, like on Hunters for Hire. But good point though. Yeah, and Rise absolutely rules. Like especially if you're looking for Monster Hunter anime style, Rise is your game. All right, all right. I feel like I have a little bit more to go with this on Elden Ring because I feel like this is a fascinating topic because like I mean like From Software, you know, for the most part, you know, like I said, like they've had like a niche fan base and stuff like that. Like Front Software has been around for a long time, but I feel like their conversations weren't always conversations about Front Software weren't always mainstream until until freaking Elden Ring happened. You know, there's also a reason why I was like 3 years back to back the most anticipated game ever. You know, um, and the game came out and they did gangbusters and stuff like that. So what do you guys think is next for Elden Ring? You know, like DLC wrapped up basically the game. Should they dive into like an Elden Ring 2 or just strike out for a brand new IP? I think starting with a brand new IP, they might piss some people off, but that's just my opinion.
I mean, I think it for Elden Ring specifically, it probably depends on, at least in the short term, how Night Rain does, right? Like if they can support it for a while, then they can move on to other projects and work on, you know, new IP or Dark Souls 4 or Sekiro 2 or whatever they want to do, right? But I think that all hinders on how Night Rain does in the short to midterm, right? You don't want to, it could be, you know, not that it's going to be because it's From Software, but you know, it could be a Concord situation or it could be a Helldiver situation. We don't know, right? Like we just don't know how people are going to attach themselves to this game. So, from what I've heard, it's pretty cool, right? It's like a, you know, kind of hyper fast arcade, like the way you level up or the way you get gear and weapons and stuff, takes away the grind, in a lot of cool boss fights and stuff, even from other From Software games. But yeah, I think it just hinders on the success of Night Rain. So
Mhm.
It's definitely going to be the factor that on whether or not they keep going in the Elden Ring direction. Um, we're getting our lawyer's advice just not to call this Bloodborne 2. So you know there's definitely a next step.
All right.
But
Well, 30 million copies and counting. This all proves,
I think they might
Elden
continue
Ring,
with Elden Ring.
Elden Ring's
because,
immersive, challenging single player experience.
I'm not sure when,
which is something that Sony knows a little bit about. By the way, still has a massive place in gaming. Whether we got the DLC, they keep players engaged. From Software's evolution from niche to mainstream, or the burning question of what comes next. One thing's clear. This isn't a victory for one game, but a testament for the power of rich worlds and rewarding gameplay. So as we wait to see what they'll deliver next, whether it be a straight sequel, a new IP, or something even more ambitious, the real question is, how will the industry respond to Elden Ring's undeniable impact? I think this is a game that's going to be talked about for decades to come.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to a topic, because talking about another fan favorite, fan loved cult classic game and stuff like that. Let's talk about good old Phoenix Wright in the Ace Attorney series for a moment here. What a lot of people do not know is that Ace Attorney was an actual early failure right out the gate. Yeah. So we want to talk about that and the overall modern relevance of the series, as what Ace Attorney is 20 years old, 20 years now? They just had an anniversary. Was it 15 or 20? I'm thinking 22. 20 sounds about right. This is Capcom. They celebrate things in decades. All right. So, have you ever wondered if some of your favorite game series would have survived in today's modern gaming climate? According to a former Ace Attorney developer, the beloved legal drama series may never have gotten past its first case if it launched right now. Thanks to how quick studios are to label games as failures and stuff like that. I mean, this is a conversation that we can have just broadly without even having to use like Ace Attorney. But anyway, in a recent discussion on social media, Masakazu Sugimori, composer and voice actor for the original Ace Attorney, reflected on how difficult it is for new game IPs to succeed today compared to the early 2000s. He noted that the original Ace Attorney was considered a commercial failure at launch, selling just 70,000 to 80,000 copies in its first week. A far cry from the blockbusters that Capcom were throwing down at the time. However, they stuck with it, allowing the series to grow into a multimedia hit. Sugimori and more industry voices also argue that with today's rising development costs and pressure for immediate success, new games often don't get the same chance to evolve into beloved franchises. I still lament Dead Space Remake. I still lament that. So, first of all, I want to go ahead and get this out the way, just so people know. Ace Attorney, one of the most iconic franchises for Capcom, almost died right out the gate. The original Phoenix Wright was actually a commercial flop in Japan, and it wasn't until it got its footing in the West with the Western audience that this turned around for them, and Capcom realized, hey, there's something growing here and stuff like that. We even had spin-offs like Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law is basically a ripoff of Phoenix Wright, stuff like that. So, guys, do modern game studios give new IPs enough time to succeed, or is it really true they just write them off as quickly as possible?
I think new IP is a risk, right? Especially in the AAA space. Yeah. I think companies are afraid to try new IP unless they're a platform holder, because they have to do what people know. Because that's the biggest selling point, is what people know, right? And even in the last decade, right? I guess it's been almost 20 years now, but Assassin's Creed 1 started out as a Prince of Persia game, right? And that was a major shift in new IP. And then Ubisoft was really great at either creating new IP, like Child of Light or Valiant Hearts, or changing things up with Far Cry, or, really kind of executing their mission with Tom Clancy games. They really did a lot, and that's just one example. And then you look at Sony, right, who, went from you look at Sucker Punch, they went from Ghost of Tsushima, or went from Infamous, which was a great franchise that people really liked, to risking it with Ghost of Tsushima, right? And that's the risk you have to take. But for every one Ghost of Tsushima, you have, sadly, again, bringing it up again, but Concord, right? Like, it's just interesting idea, tries to appeal to people, and it just wasn't, and I think a lot of new IP are going to face that. I think a lot of people are looking at not necessarily a new IP, but a revived IP that hasn't been around in 30 years. You look at Marathon, right, from Bungie. And a lot of people are looking at this as like a make or break for Bungie, because, as Destiny's player base is pretty down, and not making a ton of money. They laid half the studio off the last 2 years. Marathon isn't really an IP people know, and it's hard to sell an extraction shooter, right? Like, it's really hard to sell an extraction shooter. And so that's a risk. That's a risk for them. So people, some of these studios just kind of revert back to what they know, and what they know people like, and what they hope people still want. I think that's why Assassin's Creed has been similar, right? The last, 4 or 5 entries, right? It's because people know what to expect. They expect that open world kind of checklist game where they can kind of zone out, maybe listen to a podcast or music, and go stab some people and fight some people, find some money and go sell loot and whatever. But like, it's still Assassin's Creed at the end of the day, right? Even though it has that flexibility of being literally anything, like, that's the weird thing about Assassin's Creed, is that's the one IP that has the flexibility to be anything, right? We've been pirates, we've been Native Americans, we've been Roman gladiators, we've been Egyptian magi. Like, that franchise has been everywhere and back. It's crazy. But
let me zero in on something you said a moment ago. You said Infamous. With Sucker Punch, for example, right? So Infamous started off as a AA title, and basically they proved enough salt to Sony that Sony wound up giving them a AAA budget, and this is when we started seeing like Ghost of Tsushima from them.
I don't know. I feel like Infamous 1 was pretty AAA for PS3.
You think so?
Yeah, they're coming off of the Sly trilogy, man. They were. I feel like Sucker Punch was.
Wait, were they? You know what? I've always felt like Sucker Punch and Insomniac were basically like spawns of the same studio. I've always felt like that, but I don't remember for sure, like, what the origins are of the two studios, because like Insomniac was Ratchet and Clank, Sucker Punch was Sly Cooper, and everyone always said those are like sister games. As a matter of fact, even when Ratchet and Clank had his 20th anniversary recently, the guys from Sucker Punch, like, they even said like, hey, kudos to like our sister company, but I don't know. I've always felt like Infamous is a great game. I love that series, actually. Like I love the first two games. Well, I love the first two games. I definitely love Festival of the Damned. First Light could have been better, in my opinion. Yeah, but I don't know. I've always felt like like it had AA DNA. Like, it seriously, because like, like, people weren't just buying PlayStations just to play Infamous, but people bought PlayStations to play Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, especially at the time, right, Infamous was being compared to Prototype, which was Activision's kind of open world anti-hero game, you would call it, I guess. And like, they were very similar in terms of how they controlled and how you kind of explored the city. I mean, they played differently, but it's that kind of genre, right? And I think Prototype kind of being a less than AAA title at the time, right? And it getting compared to Infamous, kind of unfair to Infamous, to be fair, but they were similar, and I think people always kind of categorize them as similar, and maybe having that AA feeling a little bit, but I don't know. Infamous 2 though. Infamous 2. It's a great game.
Oh yeah. Oh
Amazing
yeah.
game. Where are those games at? Sony. Where's our remaster of that? Put all 5 games on one disc. It's fine. You can do it. I believe in you.
And you know what? While they're at that, please give us our Resistance trilogy. All right. So let's slide back to the actual topic of Ace Attorney and Phoenix Wright. Imagine if that game launched today and bombed in its first week. Would Capcom ever greenlight a sequel? First of all, I think this is a double-edged question right here because Capcom takes a lot of risks. They take a lot of risks.
Kunitsugami is the most recent one.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that was a huge risk, and I know they had that, and then they had that the game everybody thought was Dino Crisis for 5 minutes. Exoprimal, right? Like those were 2 huge risks for Capcom. But Monster Hunter and Resident Evil sales and the money they made off of those games allowed them to take those risks and do something. It
fuels that, yeah.
Also, they got the Game Pass bag too, right? I mean, Microsoft basically funded Kunitsugami. It came out later, but
Exoprimal in my opinion, because Exoprimal thrived on Game Pass, where it did not do well at all on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think that's the benefit. That's one of the benefits of Game Pass, right? Is like discoverability and word of mouth, right? Because like Kunitsugami was a game that saw. I don't want to say it saw a lot of action on Game Pass, but it got enough to where people were talking about it, and I think a lot of people on PlayStation were looking at it to the point where it obviously sold enough for them to make it think that it's worth porting to Switch 2, right? Like, it seems like that game did at least okay for them.
Yeah,
but I was going to say, but again, Capcom has made some hits that allowed them to take that risk, and with Microsoft's help, right, also really, allowed them to do that.
I think. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like Capcom in particular. There's an old saying among like people in the film industry: one for us, one for them. And Capcom can kind of do that, where it's like, okay, one for us, we'll put out a Monster Hunter game, we'll put out a Resident Evil game.
But you look at they're also doing Okami 2 now, right? Like
that's the one for
I would count that as a pretty big
we'll put
risk.
Out one for
Okami
us,
didn't sell well when it first came out.
Basically,
I think there's a lot of
risk that we
revisionist
can
history
take
on that
because
game,
we have the financial
in my
grounding to take that risk because of the other stuff we do. And I realize that I'm just stating what you said, but yeah, I do think they're unique in that aspect.
I feel like it, the loud minority are clamoring for it, and then it'll sell like 12 copies, and I don't know. That game worries me a little bit.
There is. You are absolutely 100% correct on that. Look, yeah, but at the same time, I'm glad that somebody finally asked Hideki Kamiya's mom if he could make a sequel to Okami. So that was like for years. I can't remember what it was like. This meme that he used to do. My friend explained it to me, where it was like, so when are we going to get an Okami 2? And it's like, ask your mom or ask my mom or something like that. And so, we were watching the Game Awards together, and he's like, somebody finally asked Hideki Kamiya's mom. But yeah, no, it's just thinking about in terms of just other things. like games like Okami and Mirror's Edge and things like that, I think the game industry when they came out was a little less risk averse than they are now, because now there's a lot more money getting thrown around with blockbuster titles and a lot of that, so it's hard to commit that level to something new, to a bet that might not pay off, as opposed to something that, is a little more tried and true, or something that's like an extension of a further franchise, like what they do with
big in
Watch
Japan. It
Dogs
was
and
a flop
Assassin's
everywhere
Creed,
else.
which is they just kind of
Like
iterate the universe but try out new mechanics in it. So I was thinking about like, Phoenix Wright was a flop. Yakuza, one of my favorite game series of all time, was a sleeper hit when it came out. And yeah, to the point that they didn't even localize one of the titles because they didn't know exactly how rabid the American fan base was until they spoke up. And so I see that possibly going one of two ways. It'll most likely go the route of like, well, we tried it and a lot of people loved it, or a lot of a very vocal minority loved it, but we can't justify the cost of this. Or it'll go into like something like a redemption arc where, No Man's Sky, for example, Sony bet big on this new IP. It flopped hard, but it had the fan base that kept it going.
I'm going to
and
inject something here, and it kind of gets off the subject a little bit, but it also is also completely relevant to how modern gaming is. I'm going to tell you the day. I'm going to tell you about the day when the day, in my personal opinion, where I felt like like the games industry is going to be in trouble. Like it hit a point. It hit a crossing point.
And not every game's going to be
back when Final Fantasy VII first released. Back in the PS1 days, and we started seeing like these massive reviews, not just from like gaming journalists and stuff like that, but mainstream journalists, like pop culture magazines and stuff like that. And a lot of them had this, not this line, but similar lines, that, like it kind of resonated with me. It's something that us as gamers back then wanted to see, but at the same time, it had such major implications to it. It was when they turned around and said like video games have now crossed into the same territory as like movies. Like, like when once we started getting blockbuster games, it basically it was basically a machine that can rival the money that's made, making movies and stuff like that. That was the day I realized that, what, our hobby as gaming might be in trouble, because now look at it, like we've got these ginormous freaking budgets and stuff like that for games. Every game is too big to fail nowadays, and stuff like that. And we see the repercussions. EA just slashed jobs at Respawn and stuff like that. And it's all about the money. I also think it's also about the political climate we're in right now, but that's a conversation for another show. But like, I feel like once we got to the point where video games, were being compared to Hollywood blockbusters, and like the budgets were getting thrown at them to make these Hollywood blockbusters and stuff like that, I feel like that's the day like video gaming got into real trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I think these companies need to learn how to explore the scale more, right? Or like, what Sony was doing for a while with, like Uncharted and Spider-Man and The Last of Us, right? Making these smaller experiences within the experience that you already have, right? Like, we got that awesome Miles Morales game, which arguably is the best Spider-Man game, in my opinion, out of those three. And then, Lost Legacy from Uncharted 4, right? Which is my second favorite Uncharted game. And, Left Behind from The Last of Us is, a lot of people really love that. So I think these companies need to start exploring more within the game. And I think Nintendo is starting to do that a little bit more, although more in re-releases than in newer games, right? Like, Kirby's getting that big expansion. Mario 3D World got that Bowser's Fury expansion, right? Like, I think these companies are just going to have to start doing that. I don't know if Microsoft has this problem because most of their games are games as a service, right? So like that's kind of inherent to what they put out. But yeah, these budgets are getting insane to the point where a company shouldn't have to like be worried that they're going to close down because their one game doesn't sell 5 million copies, 6 million copies right off the bat, right? Like they just shouldn't have to worry about that. You know, we see Square Enix put out those numbers. I don't know how much they do it anymore, but like Tomb Raider sold what 8 million copies when it came out, and it was disappointing numbers for them. Like in the first month or 2 months or something, or first quarter it was out. I'm like, man, there are so many games that would kill to sell half of that.
Not even half, like a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, okay. Thank you for mentioning that, because real quickly, like Claire Obscure Expedition 33, it sold 1 million copies.
Mm-hmm.
1 million copies without Game Pass. Stuff
Right.
like that.
But that's also that's also an example of that team has 30 people on it, not hundreds or thousands. Right.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say to that is, like, do we classify that as a success? Because I feel like games that have been sold million copies have been said they were not a success, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the success scales, right? I mean, you look at Warhorse also with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. That team isn't much larger than 65 or 70 people, right? If that, and they've sold 2 million copies at this point. Like, I just think the success scales, and obviously where the game is being made too, right? Like Eastern European games are being made much cheaper than games in the US, especially, right? Because they don't pay their employees as much as maybe they should be, or like the standard of living is different, right? So the pay is different. I also think that's why things like Alan Wake and Control are considered successful, right? Because they are, their pay scale is different. But to that point, I do think you have to look at success. You have to scale it depending on the developer and what they consider success. And if they don't have to be beholden to a AAA publisher who has to look at shareholders and say, oh yeah, we're going to sell this many. And then when they don't, they're like, well, we're going to close the studio down. Look at Respawn today, right? 100 people laid off because EA canceled 2 games. EA laid off 300 people, including 100 at Respawn.
Okay.
Because they were experimenting with a game. I think a lot of people thought it was Titanfall 3. I don't think it was. I know they had a Star Wars first-person shooter in development. I think that might be what it was, but they're turning around and doubling down on Apex Legends because that's what makes them money, and that's what people like, And regardless what people say about Titanfall 2, how great it is, another game that didn't sell, right? Regardless of where it was placed, or I know EA wanted to double down on trying to fight Call of Duty that year with Battlefield and Titanfall, and but Titanfall was a newer IP, especially on PlayStation, right? Like, you're gonna go with a shooter that right? Call of Duty is king. Battlefield is right on its coattails most years that it's out.
All right. Before we wrap this up real quickly, I have a really fun question I want to ask everybody.
A fun question.
Can you name a game or series that you love that might not have survived if it was launched in today's market? I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there right now. Monster Hunter. Like, if the original Monster Hunter game released now, there would not be any more games. The level of entry was way too hard. People didn't quite get what the game was about and stuff like that. It was just one of those games, and like I've said like countless times on this on this show before, as I talked about my history of Monster Hunter and stuff like that. Like, I felt like for the longest time I was the only person in my circle of friends playing this game, where everybody else was playing like Witcher 2, Guild Wars, to an extent, like these people were loving the fact that Phantasy Star Online came back on the GameCube and stuff like that. They were playing that,
Mm-hmm.
And here I am playing, a game from 2004, like praying that we'd get a real sequel over here in the States.
I have a whole generation of games for you, LeRon. It's called the Sega Dreamcast. Look at all those games: Crazy Taxi, Jet
Those
Set
games are coming
Radio.
back.
I know theoretically they are, yes, but like Skies of Arcadia, right? Like those games, if those were just one-off games these days, they would be either $20 indie style downloadable games, or if they had a AAA budget, they'd be, Sega would be toast, right? I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, you look at Shenmue 3, how critically panned it was, and like, sure, maybe the hardcore Shenmue fans liked it, but nobody else bought it because
well, I mean, also at the same time, Shenmue 3 was like giving the core fans that like love the game and want to see the story finished. They were doing, it was a passion project for them. So I don't know. I feel like Shenmue 3 can't be like put in that same vein,
Yeah.
Hell, would the original Resident Evil have survived in this modern gaming experience? Because remember, I talked about it last week, how like it was a game changing experience for me when I first played it back in 96.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
I was thinking Silent Hill
sure.
might have. Yeah, that first one.
That's right, Stephanie. You played that one. You played the original Silent Hill recently. Oh my god.
I know, so I can speak to it. But keep going, Sam.
It might have survived. Silent Hill wouldn't have. Yeah, or they had to like. Oh no! I just remember the PS. I was reading PSM at the time. And one of the things they said was,
all right. So from commercial flop in Japan to a global phenomenon, if you look back at Ace Attorney's Unlikely Journeyman, it makes you wonder. In today's gaming landscape, there we go.
I can speak. I see the Kotaku review.
English is my first language.
That's not an excuse.
Would a series like this even get a second chance? I want to invite everybody listeners and viewers out there. Please sound off in the comments. Give us the name of some games that, like, if they release games you love, they release right now, would they have survived in this current like market for gaming? And also let us know how you guys felt about like the whole like arc of like the Ace Attorney series. So we'd love to hear more from you. We're gonna go ahead and go into our next topic here. Actually, wait, guys, is it already time for the roundtable?
Do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
yes.
All right. Well, all right, everybody. Hold on to your controllers, folks, because Sydney Sweeney is diving headfirst into gaming adaptations.
Boy.
First, she's going to team up with Michael Bay for a high-octane Outrun movie. Outrun, that's right. The Sega driving classic Outrun. Yeah. She'll be tying on to that as producer, which Michael Bay is going to be directing. And then she'll be starring in Split Fiction. Yeah, you heard that right. Yeah, a game that just is barely out has been picked up for a movie adaptation. Which, if you don't know, it's a psychological thriller based on the cult classic game of two best friends who are writers. One does fantasy, one does sci-fi, and there's going to be a movie about the game in there. But ultimately, are these projects set to redefine video game movies, or will they just crash and burn? I want to add just a little more. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say Outrun. There's probably going to be some crashing in there because it's Michael Bay and fast cars and, women.
First of all, if they don't do a true homage to that game, because everybody knows there's certain crashes in that game where the car flips and your passenger, who's always this blonde lady in a white dress, gets thrown out the car.
I hope they use that footage from Bad Boys that they use in every single movie, the highway scene. It was used in Transformers. It's been used in like 4 Michael Bay movies. The same scene.
Yeah. All right. So here's the thing about this, and by the way, for people who are new to this is the round table. This is basically where we have a topic that we just talk about, and instead of us having that usual back and forth about it, each one of us on the panel sounds off on something that they think about it, their thoughts and opinions on it, and then we just move on to the next panelist until everybody's had their say on it. So ultimately, where I'm going to frame this at is Hollywood doing this thing right? Because while the original game, Outrun, lacked a detailed narrative, the film itself aims to capture the essence of freedom and style, potentially drawing inspiration from movies like Baby Driver. Conversely, we have Split Fiction, which offers a rich storyline following the two authors trapped in worlds they created. This is going to be directed by John M. Chu, and it will feature a script by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, known for Deadpool. The film also promises a blend of fantasy and sci-fi elements, which that's par for the course considering how the game is. Sweeney's involvement in both projects underscores her versatility and increasing intersection between gaming and film industries. I'll be honest with you, like I only know City Sweeney because of Euphoria and the movie with her and Glenn Powell did a couple years ago. That's right. That's right. Like that's a show on my watch list that I haven't actually started. All right, so all right, so let's talk about this. Is Hollywood doing this thing right? Stephanie, I'm throwing this to you first.
Thanks, because I want to open it with a question,
Yes.
Who's
which
also in the White
is more
Lotus.
rhetorical than anything. How the hell did this get secured so fast when
That's
Split
fair.
Fiction just
You're
came
not
out a
missing
couple
anything.
months ago?
I have no well that's the thing right now. It seems like Hollywood is snatching up like game adaptations and stuff like that.
I
Yeah.
feel like talks must have been going on even, I don't know, kind of almost parallel to the game. I don't know. That just seems just way too fast for it not just to. It's one thing just to announce that, hey, we're gonna make an adaptation of this. They already secured an actress. Like I just,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Uh,
exactly, and a director. I'm like, oh, sus,
You know
as the
what?
kids say.
As much I don't, as much as we love to say that Joseph Ferris is feeling himself on all his projects and stuff like that, I don't even think he was moving this fast on this stuff. Something else is going on.
Well, he owns
Yeah,
the rights to the movies or to
And
the
director.
the franchise, so he made the deal.
Well, he made the deal, but what I'm saying is, I feel like somebody pitched it to him. He didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think he went out pitching it to them.
Here's what I think. I think when you make the games of the caliber that Joseph Fares seems to make, right? It Takes Two, Game of the Year, right? A Way Out was like that weird kind of, I guess, kind of first attempt at the mandatory co-op game, right? What was the game he did before that? I forget what the game he did before that was, but essentially, Split Fiction seems to be like another huge hit for him. And so I think when you have that track record and he's as boisterous and loud as he is, right? Which to each their own, he can be that. He doesn't have to be that, whatever. If he wants to be that, I think he's earned it, right? I mean, he's obviously an incredible creator, right? Regardless of what you think of him or the games, like he's successful. The
right.
movie execs see that the games are successful and they see money, right? They don't see scores. They see the number of units sold and they see the money that they could potentially make on a great story. I think Split Fiction is an incredibly interesting game that could be turned into an incredibly interesting, I would say, TV show. Would make a better kind of outlet for that. But I think it could be, if they do it correctly, they could make something
Yeah.
really interesting and probably really great.
Right. Outside of my initial question, I did think that out of any of the recent-ish video games that could be adapted into cinema or TV, Split Fiction actually is a great candidate. But I agree. It's Hollywood seeing cha-ching the money, because video games in general, have become more and more mainstream or accepted by mainstream, so to speak. I mean, we still have people who think video games are still for just for kids, but it's definitely becoming a little bit it's becoming more acknowledged, more popular. I mean, look at like that example of Minecraft, despite what you may or may not think about the movie. I mean, that's dollar
Right.
signs and
Right, but for every Minecraft, there's a Last of Us TV show, right? Like, I
right,
think
yeah. I know, and I just it's money, it's
Mhm.
all
It's a
but
risk, though.
and
Yeah.
it's a risk, but it's kind of like how I think Hollywood, for the most part, squeezed dry a lot of novel adaptations, and now they're like, oh, we can do video game adaptations. It's going to be like that, and we're going to get a hell of a lot more. There's going to be a batch that are going to be fantastic, and there's going to be a batch that's yeah.
I don't know, Tomb Raider's pretty good. Angelina Jolie. If you want to see how you can become a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushNetwork. The Patreon producers for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, Matthew Keel, Retro Stoy, and Christian S. Thanks for your continued support of the Boss Rush Network.
I love those 6 Resident Evil films. There's nothing you can say to deny me. I love them.
Oh no, Tomb Raider is one of the badass ones. And honestly, I'm the kind of degenerate who has a soft spot for Resident Evil Apocalypse.
Yeah.
I love 2 and 3. I haven't really seen more than that. When I heard they were making a 4, I was like, I get that bag and all, but I ain't gonna watch it. I'm happy. I got my 2. I'm out. Mind if I take things next? All right. Sorry, because I just sort of barged in there. I'd want to see Split Fiction being made into an anime. I honestly think that'd be a better medium for it for a couple of reasons. One, the art style does lend itself a lot more to that kind of highly embellished techno magic kind of thing. There are a lot of studios now who are doing a great job with that sort of stuff, and also the chapters could be episodic and things like that. The other reason is because we've already had a high-profile
Sinners is
video
amazing.
game adaptation.
I saw it last weekend. Sinners is
basically,
amazing.
take a steep nosedive with Until Dawn, and yeah, that just hit the wall. Part of that was because
it's
also
getting harder.
Sinners came out, and Sinners is everybody in my circles is like, this is amazing. See it multiple times in theaters. I have to still. I'm so trying so hard to avoid spoilers, and it's just hell. It is, yeah, but also because I have to say, personally, I have it out for John M. Chu in particular because Wicked is a 3-hour musical. And somehow he turned it into a 4.5-hour movie, or a 4.5 2-part film franchise. And I feel, if anything, for that sort of action adventure plot, for that sort of embellished story, you need a little more economy of storytelling than that. I was not happy when it was I saw this and it only took 3 hours the last time. But the other thing is Outrun I'm really interested in, because we have something we can point to for that too, which is there were a lot of stylistic just fucking drive movies that were released in the 70s and 80s. You had White Line Fever, Vanishing Point, to some degree The Wraith, which The Wraith is pretty much all style, and weirdly a young Charlie Sheen just sort of plopped in the middle of it because you need somebody for the style to kind of rotate around.
Yeah, and
but I'm
piggyback off that.
Kind of excited for that, even though it's Michael Bay, because
there's no story.
If you want to do a style over substance movie with a style over substance
kind
director,
of driving straight on this weird pixelated screen.
A driving movie is perfect.
You can kind of do whatever you want
It's like drive
with
movies
it,
and Chase through the Night
essentially,
movies are just
right? As
absolutely
long as
perfect
you
for that.
have a lot of driving in it, like it really, you know, I'm thinking Michael Bay. There's going to be a lot of, you know, probably some sort of like, I'm thinking like the Italian Job with explosions. Honestly, is what I'm thinking of. Uh, yeah, that's like when I heard that. That's what I envision, right? Where Sydney Sweeney probably plays like the Charlize Theron character, and like I don't know, Mark Wahlberg will probably be in it. Right?
I really dig that. I've loved both versions
We
of
got
the Italian
Outrun.
Job.
Hey, I found a transformer. Wrong movie, Mark.
Stephanie, did you have more to add to it?
Probably.
Because I know you had a question. You
Keep
kind of
that
had the follow up
motherfucker
to
out
it,
of
but
movies.
did you have more to add on this before I go?
But no, definitely move forward. I
Okay.
think my question and subsequent comment helped generate further discussion, so I'm good.
Okay. All right. So here's my thought on it. Like I have a very bad feeling that that Outrun is going to wind up being like Twisted Metal. I have a very bad feeling about it. You know,
Like the show or the game?
the show, like Twisted Metal,
The
the
show's
show.
awesome.
I'm not saying anything bad about the show. What I'm saying is I feel like they're just basically going to copy like the style of Twisted Metal. I really hope it doesn't happen like that. I actually hope it's more of those. I, as a person who fancies himself as a writer and stuff like that, I feel like there's two scenarios here. It's either going to be some like pseudo post apocalyptic thing, or it's basically going to be a cross country drive thing, and and wind up being like a heist movie or something like that. That's the way I feel on this. Split Fiction though kind of has my attention though, because I feel like there's a lot of potential in it, because with the just with the subject of the game itself, like there's a lot of narrative story going on in that. Like this is a game that follows like two writers and stuff like that. You can't have a video game that follows like a writer and there not be like real story elements to it. Look at Alan Wake, for example. Oh my god, phenomenal game because like it takes place in that guy's fictional universe and stuff like that. So Split Fiction's the one I got my eye on. Now, and I did frame this whole thing as Hollywood doing this thing right. It is very good that we have names like Sydney Sweeney and Michael Bay, like attaching themselves to this and stuff like that. And we also got John M. Chu, Paul Wernick, and we look at like the history of like some other adaptations that like had Hollywood stars, in producing or directing roles and stuff like that. Tom Holland with Uncharted, executive producer, as well as a star in it.
Another good movie. I actually was shocked at how good that movie was.
Yeah, the Uncharted movie actually surprised me because like I'm a lifelong franchise fan and stuff like that. Let me think. We have The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Producer and star in Rampage. Mila Jovovich is not credited as a producer, but her ties to the actual director of the entire Resident Evil film series, as well as the Monster Hunter game, stuff like that. Paul W.S. Anderson and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of influence on how like those projects turned out and things like that. So I like that. Like there's Hollywood talent behind these things, but at the same time, I'm still afraid because like for every Resident Evil, like Resident Evil 2, like Resident Evil Apocalypse or whatnot, we have Alone in the Dark. And stuff like that. Like it's I still feel like it's a scary landscape. Like for every good video game movie we have freaking. I'm not saying the Minecraft movie is that bad, but I've heard it's bad. Borderlands is
I heard someone on this panel loved it.
Borderlands is bad.
Someone's on the panel's child loved it. Let's get that correct.
I don't know. Someone on the panel went and saw it twice. That's all I'm saying.
Because their child loved it.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I'm just going to.
So I just feel like
going to share something.
Ooh, what's this
in the private chat?
Ooh.
Here, I'll put it out there.
I already did. Bam, beat you.
I'm not like I didn't know how to share it in like the public chat,
Uh-huh.
but this is
I
in
will
my
say his
circles. There was a
closing
review of the
line or the
Minecraft movie
closing
that was
lines
circling
are
around.
brilliant. Smear your
Um,
face with it. It's fine. Relax. It's just for kids.
awesome, by
I
this guy
smeared my
named
face all over
Walter
it.
Chaw for Film Freak Central.
I'm concerned, Stephanie. Are you
Actually,
okay?
amazing film writer,
Blink
by
twice
the
for
way. I should say.
Can you see?
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and tie that
Yeah.
topic up. But as always, I invite all our listeners and viewers, please like sound off in our comments. Let us know what you think. Is Hollywood doing this thing right? Also, let us know some of your favorite like adaptations, both movie and TV wise, because we've had some pretty good video games that like have like a nice following, on the TV side of things and stuff like that. So sound off. Let us know some of your thoughts on this. Let us know some of your favorites and stuff like that. We'll probably revisit this topic once those movies have come out, if they come out, is the question. All right. So I just want to take the time right now to go ahead and celebrate a banter that's on bossrush.net right now. Sam teed it up earlier by saying let video games cook, and Sam, this is your article. So I'm going to turn it over to you for a moment. You go ahead and set this up for us.
Yeah. Oh Christ! Oh Christ! Oh Christ! All right. Uh, it was essentially like I was already working on this article about Cyberpunk 2077, and I had a lot of ADD. I have a lot of like ADHD, so I juggle games constantly. And at the time, I was playing Redfall and also Star Wars Outlaws and a lot of this. And these games had like infamous releases, bombed at releases, bombed several times after release, but were fixed to the point where they were like relatively they're not great games, but they're good games. And I was thinking about like in terms of Cyberpunk 2077 and No Man's Sky, two of my favorite games, which were like games on release that had a lot of issues that were then fixed, and that basically if these games had had a decent development period, if they had been like nurtured along and brought to these final forms, they wouldn't have been bad games and would have actually been received a lot better than they were on release. They wouldn't be like these infamous flops or like have this redemption arc. And that essentially just, and I know like, just to put my filthy anarchist hat on for a moment, capitalism doesn't really like allow for longer release schedules and letting games breathe and letting people work out all the bugs. Hell, not even in the unreality of game dev tycoon, that's not fucking possible. At a certain point, you just have to like hit the release button and hope for the best.
All right.
And
yeah,
so I wanted to
what I
talk
love
about
what I
like
love about your banter. Number one, like it definitely
these
invited the
games
discussion
should
about
like
like
be
what
allowed to have
what
the
should we
amount of
do as far
time
as
where
like
they're
like
not like rushed out in
how
a
like
messy
we
or
want our
broken
games. Like,
state,
do we
and
want a
maybe have a
homogenization of our
little time to
games,
fix
or
those
do we
mechanics and
actually
stuff like
want
that.
the
No, that's just one of
masterpieces
the
that
things I wanted to
everyone
talk
swears like everything should be these days and stuff like that? I did like your retrospective on the cost of having like these rushed releases. You use examples like Fallout 76 and No Man's Sky, for example, right? You know, those games, like the way they dropped and stuff, it basically damaged the player's trust and stuff like that. And ultimately,
Yeah.
I think in the case of No Man's Sky, like like No Man's Sky came out all right because like the development team, like they came out with a mistakes were made type of blog posts and stuff like that, and they got to work and stuff like that. Whereas Fallout 76 really damaged the game's long term success. So yeah,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. On top of that, I think what kind of helped No Man's Sky is that there was a complete game on release. It wasn't the game that necessarily they overpromised a lot, but for 16 people, they released like this really great, chill, I'm going to say somewhat casual space sim, and then, owned up to their mistakes, made it better, added the features that people wanted in the game, the features that were overpromised. Um, Nowadays, it's fun to name one of, to land on an undiscovered planet and name name it "Get the Hell Off My Planet" right as somebody's flying overhead trying to land on it. But yeah, I think that generally helped. It was that basically it was like an ambitious thing from the jump. When I was Fallout 76, it was like, this is going to work.
As I was reading the article, I came up with some of my own like side notes and stuff, like basically highlights and stuff like that.
And also, you're going to get all these pre-release rewards. And
there are certain games that had like rough starts that wound up on a redemption arc. Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 14, for example. These are games that I think when my Crossroads podcast show was getting off the ground and stuff like that, I had a line in the show, like, it's not an episode of Crossroads and we're not talking about Cyberpunk 2077. I think it was literally a line that I used for 30 some odd episodes, because it seemed like every week we're coming back to something about Cyberpunk and stuff like that, and talk about a game that turned itself around. A disastrous launch. Anyone that knew anything about Cyberpunk, or anyone that knew anything about gaming, knew that this was supposed to be a PC game at launch, and then trickled down to PC, but I'm sorry, to consoles and stuff like that. So we should have tempered our expectations in the beginning, and of course, because of rushed release and stuff like that, having to bend the knee to shareholders and stuff like that, we got what we got, and it took Cyberpunk 2.0. 2.3, 2.5, and Phantom Liberty to get us to where we are now. Yeah.
Currently at, I think, 2.15 is the patch with Phantom Liberty to get us where we are now. And it really pissed me off at release, because I was playing the game on release and all that, and I would get into these moments, or I would get into these flow states, or I'd get into these quests, like main story and otherwise.
That had to be a nightmare.
And there was a lot of cool shit going on in the story, and there was a lot of atmosphere and a lot of that stuff going on. But at the same time, every time I went for equipment, the equipment stats were flipped. So it was telling me that worse pieces of equipment were better and better pieces of equipment were worse. And I had to figure out that those things were flipped before it absolutely was. I think the third time I picked up a worse pistol. Cat! I'm sorry. The third time I picked up a worse pistol, I was like, this is dinky as fuck. Oh, now I know what's going on. And it was just a simple icon fix, but then, there's this... Then in the next moment, I'd be playing this quest where you're doing an underwater dive.
That's the lifelong question that every gamer asks.
And
every time they play a new game.
Your childhoods and things in this drowned town, heading towards this gigantic all right
church. So players are constantly demanding polished games, yet the hype and impatience often push publishers through rush these releases. So what's really blamed here when a game launch is broken? I'm not what's really blamed. Who's really blamed? Is it us, the gamers, or is it the developers?
And
who's at fault here, or is it a little bit of both? Do we all have to take the blame on this? Corey, thoughts?
I mean, I know people want to say the developers or the publishers, especially ones that have to hold on to shareholders and stuff, but I think it's a little bit of both.
I mean, right? I already wrote the article. I'm going to take a little
us
bit
as gamers have to be a part of the conversation. like the hardcore on everything, right? Even before things come out, right? That's how, I can't tell you how many spoiler casts on podcasts have been on podcast services that I just totally stopped listening to for one reason or another, because they got the game early, they beat it, they talked about it before the game was even out, and that's just how we've been. I don't want to say we've been trained, but like that's how we've kind of consumed gaming for so long. And of course, like a publisher forcing a developer to put a game out before it's ready and then trying to patch it later, right? Because developers have also been publishers have also, with the advent of especially console patches. I know PC patches have been out for a long time, but with console patches, like, there was, the game that, broke the camel's back, as it were, right? Like, some of these multiplayer games will get patched for weapon balancing, and then, to bring The Witcher 2 back up, right? That game got patched probably 3 or 4 times at least on Xbox 360.
A game that basically was like straw broke the camel's back for me. Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, but see, that's an example of like,
I dealt with 14 patches post launch.
Yeah, see, but that's the thing. You played it when it first came out, right?
Yeah.
I played it a year after it came out, and I had 0 problems with it.
I know you were one of the people telling me the game was perfect and fun, and I was like, I will try.
I didn't say it was perfect. I said it was fun.
Well, I remember saying something in that, and I'm paraphrasing this. I was like, I will find some gaming Viagra and try to play this game again, because I can't seem to get it up right now for this.
Yeah, and so I think there's fault on both sides, but like if you are if everybody just has the patience to wait, and like for like a game of the year edition or a complete edition or something, not only will you get the best version of the game, you will probably also get a lot of the extra stuff that people also paid for.
Oh, yeah, I love game of the year
cheaper.
editions. I love game of the year editions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of I want to put some of the blame on the gamers, because there is like that culture of impatience to the point that people have like sent developers death threats and shit over like this game is being delayed. And that's absolutely a fucked situation. We should not be doing that. There needs to be a patience there, but I also think to some degree the hype cycle that the publishers did kind of
I like that word.
Engender did a little bit of the heavy lifting there, where basically like, we got to get it out for this, we got to get it out for this, we got to get it out for this. And one of the earliest examples of this, Vampire Bloodlines, like, an absolute trashterpiece in so many people's eyes. Yeah. It is. It so much is. Every time I'm like, this is a great game, it's like, this is trashy as fuck. They had to get it out by Christmas, or like before Christmas, because it was they wanted to be the first game on the Source engine. They wanted to beat Half-Life 2 to the market, and they released it in such a jank ass state. And it's obviously rushed. Like, there is no amount of unofficial patching and modding that can be used to fix the back half of that game. None. But also, like, after the patches came through and all that sort of stuff, once it finally like vanished out of the hype cycle, once everybody like had time to calm down from it, even as much as like 2006 or 2007, I heard, this game is actually worth playing. This is actually something that people could be interested in.
There's one thing I want to touch on really quickly before we go ahead and close this out.
Had that hype cycle,
games that cook too damn long.
Beating Half-Life 2 to market. And I think that screwed them as much as like any
we
anticipation cycle
we
would
can talk
have.
about that. We can talk about Duke Nukem Forever.
But that's just me.
I think Duke Nukem Forever was cooked, left out, microwaved,
Buzzards picked over it.
frozen.
Oh, are we going to talk about Bloodlines too? Did I accidentally a segue?
And hope nobody would notice.
Oh, fuck that! Oh, goddamn!
And then
Ugh.
and then Randy Pitchford had the audacity to compare it to Half-Life. Not that I like think Half-Life is like the greatest game or whatever. Like I've had very limited experience with Half-Life.
You're right, but I just aged into dust.
But I know
my fucking body.
as someone who suffered through Duke Nukem Forever, I know it's not as good as Half-Life. I played it out of sheer curiosity.
All right, so at the end of the day, there's always going to be this debate over game development timelines, and it's never going to be black and white. While another game that could have cooked black and white too. While Rust releases often leave players burned and the studio scrambling, we've seen delays that didn't automatically equal success either. The real takeaway here, whether a game is delayed or launched on schedule, what matters most is how the time is used. Is there time to refine the vision, polish the gameplay, or ultimately deliver on the experience that justifies the wait, or prove some games are actually really ready all along? Here's the thing about it, because like I'm always going to say this, if you're part of the fan base that feels like you want your game so badly that you have to like issue death threats and like dox people and stuff like that, you are part of the fucking problem. And also, I will never give you any respect as gamers. First of all, because people come in, they do their job and stuff like that, and you know what? If you're a person in your job that's been pressed to meet a deadline, you should be able to understand how these guys are doing it too. Then, so there you go.
Amen.
Like, sit down, shut up, stuff like that. For the rest of the gaming community that understands, like, hey, like, there was a good section of the Assassin's Creed community that was upset about Shadows being delayed and stuff like that. But they trusted the process. They trust the process better than some of the people that were like, oh, I can't wait for this game to come out so I can rip the shreds, stuff like that. And look what we got. I'm not saying we got the world's best masterpiece for Assassin's Creed Shadows, but you know what? We got a pretty comparable game. So I applaud
game of the year so far.
Yeah, I applaud the people that have the patience and stuff like that. So yeah. There's my closeout on that. Head over to bossrush.net and check out the April 26th edition of the Boss Rush Banter from our wonderful Sam Reeder here. And please, like, show him some praise in the comments. Show them some praise in the comments. My bad. No. I get excited on shows, and I don't mean to misgender people. I get excited. All right. So it's the end of the month, everybody. And that means it's time for our favorite segment.
It's cool. Like
Attaboys and get-togethers.
I know how I look.
All right.
A lot of people are just doing a video.
If you're new to the show here, this segment is where each of us on the panel picks a person, company, developer, game, or something else to shout out as doing something great, gaming industry related or otherwise. And that is what we call our attaboy, if it's deserved, of course. On the flip side, same thing applies. You doing something wrong? You need to do something better? Get together. Also well deserved. Stephanie, I saw your I saw your submissions. I want you to go first.
Okay, so I know it's no surprise that I would say this, but I do feel like we all have to objectively acknowledge the successful pre-order numbers for the Switch 2. Say what you will about the clown show of how, going through the painful pre-ordering process, and I feel bad for all those people that went through Target and then subsequently got them canceled. I myself was on a cruise ship with shitty cruise ship Wi-Fi trying to get the pre-order for an hour. But after all that's said and done, I mean, I think Bloomberg had written an article that, they're expecting to sell between what, like 6 to 8 million in within the first, I think, week or something crazy numbers where, some people were expecting this to be like a Wii U situation. Some of this were just like, no one's going to really buy this. And this is going to be set, or it's in trajectory to smash records. So say what you will about Nintendo, say what you will about the price of the console, price of the games, whatever they're doing. There's kudos. Holy crap. This is just the beginning. Get it together. It was going to be another one, but LeRon beat me to it, so I won't steal the thunder from him. So I'll let LeRon take it. So my
Wait, we
less
should do.
cool.
We're gonna talk. We were talking. We were planning to talk about the same thing. Is that what it was, or is it something different about this guy?
It was. It
Okay,
was.
okay, okay,
Yeah. So I can let you start, and I can comment as needed.
okay.
So the less cool get it together is just kind of the other side of the coin. Like, I saw a lot of really angry, pissy internet trolls on like Facebook groups about the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you people? Get a life, go out and touch grass, please. They were a lot angrier than I thought. I'm like, what's there to be angry about? I don't understand. So get it together, gamers. Gosh.
Yeah, yeah. I want to go next. I want to go next because like I feel like this is one of like this has got to be like this gets you in the feels as far as feel good goes, feel good gaming goes. My attaboy goes to Bethesda Game Studios, and it's not just because the Oblivion Remastered, is doing pretty well here. But Bethesda gave free game keys for Oblivion Remastered to every member of the Sky Oblivion team. All right, if you guys don't know anything, Sky Oblivion is a fan made project from a modding community that basically is basically taking the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion's world and quest and putting it into Skyrim Special Edition. So yeah, so Bethesda came out and said they have publicly stated that they have no intentions of shutting down the Sky Oblivion project, even with the release of their own Oblivion remastered title already out and stuff like that. Uh, it's wild to think, that usually companies like this, especially a company that's owned by Microsoft, is not like slamming people with cease and desist, like takedown orders and all this stuff and stuff like that. They're like, hey, like we appreciate what you're doing. We love the attention that you're bringing to our franchise and stuff like that. Here's a free game for everybody on the team and stuff like that. By the way, the team in question is TES Renewal, the modding group.
They did a similar thing for the Fallout London mod team where I can't remember what they did for them. They did something for them too when they released their mod for Fallout 4, I think it was.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it because like honestly, I feel like Bethesda themselves, like despite their flaws and limitations sometimes, Bethesda seems like a stand-up studio.
Yeah, and those games have always had like a huge modding scene, right? Like
yeah,
always. So
they love their modding. They love the modding community for their games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Stephanie, you ready for this?
Let's do it.
Talk
Talk about foot in mouth. Go ahead.
Mr. Randy Pitchford. You need to get it together, bro. You need to get together. First of all,
are you shocked though?
I am not shocked. But I will take any opportunity I can to like just go ahead and drag this man.
Guy keeps porn on a thumb drive. Okay, like. Just it's 2020. What was it then? 2021. Like bookmark it like a normal person and move on.
So a lot of people probably didn't know this, but the man himself accidentally revealed the Borderlands 4 release date.
Medieval times. Let's
on Twitter.
Like,
and then he had to immediately delete it because quote Googling timelines is hard.
Does someone need to handle his social media account?
Cloud server.
Come on. Some people need.
He's just as bad. He's just as bad as the man in the White House, in my opinion. But whatever.
Thank you. I was considering making that comment, but I wasn't sure if I should. So thank you, LeRon. But we're on the same page here. I'm like, some people need to be like handheld through technology.
Yeah. Our buddy Wario64 on Twitter managed to grab this video before Pitchford was able to pull it down and stuff like that, and ultimately replaced it with the tweet about time zones and stuff like that. It's hilarious, but at the same time, it's like facepalm territory, because this guy's been doing this for a long time, and when I say doing this, I mean developing video games, stuff like that. And is he still CEO of a company? I know his company got sold.
He is the acting president of Gearbox Entertainment, which is the parent company of Gearbox Software, which is owned by 2K.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Get together, brother. Get together. Get. You know, you have enough money. Just retire, please.
He needs to make more more money so he can open his magic studio. Okay.
No.
Jeez.
Those are my submissions. Who's next?
Randy, they're never going to allow you into the castle with moves like this. My attaboy for this month is Kaizen Gameworks, who looked at an absolutely stacked month where we're getting like the Oblivion remaster, Blueprints, Clair Obscur 33, all of these games that are just like, April is possibly the most stacked month of the year so far in terms of gaming. And immediately just dropped their weird ass B movie of a game right alongside it. And it is fucking thriving so hard alongside all of this shit. Like, I have played Promise Mascot Agency. I try not to play too much of it for personal reasons because I got like 6 other things going on. But it is really, really cool, and I am so glad that they actually managed to drop it in there and that it found its audience and that it seems to be like slowly taking off in the sort of weird ass niches that it deserves. So that's my attaboy. My get it together, and this is like tangential to my Boss Rush Banter earlier this week, was every Nintendo fan that has ever brought out an inflation calculator in an argument with me. I would really like them all to get it together because, I get it. I get that games have the relative cost of games hasn't moved that far, and that what was $40
is one of those people who hit you with the inflation calculator. Is that person's name Corey Durr?
But you have to understand that wages haven't changed that much between the 90s and now, and there are some serious, points of a percentage up from there. So yeah, no, just get it together. Yeah.
Why are you throwing me into this?
I'll throw myself under the bus.
I don't think
didn't
so.
write a Boss Rush Banter
this was basically just
I don't know. It had something to do with people being
essentially
pissed off about the price or
shading a whole bunch of people.
And I technically
on,
threw that into my banter, but it wasn't. In my defense, it wasn't the whole basis by any means. It's more like
the inflation calculator.
Because it's true. Because inflation versus rate of pay. I mean, it's not really that the same. No, and that wasn't what I was implying either, by the way.
And
don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, and I did link. So I did. I do have to apologize because this is on me. I did low-key shade a Boss Rush Banter about like the inflation calculator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. No, I do just want to apologize because I don't remember who wrote the thing I linked, but I did link a thing in there, like, as much as we want to bring out the inflation calculator, use that as this shit is like 2% of income right now.
So.
But no, it was just like all over Facebook and all over like other services I use. People were like, I know you're complaining about the prices, but look at the historical prices. And it's like, yeah, so $1 doesn't buy as much, buddy.
before Corey
Yeah.
says his piece, like
And
I
I
was
didn't
just
want
I
to
was
like you don't want
unfairly
to just
picking on you,
like
Corey.
enter into
My
an
bad.
online argument where you're going
My
to
bad,
get,
because you
like,
started
Well, why?
it's
you
like
start
walking
you start the
too
night
close to
out
a
like
mosh pit and getting crowd
punching
killed by,
me,
like,
so
30
I
people.
want to hit back.
Whoa.
Figure why not on
Fair.
a podcast where I can't see the chat,
All right, buddy, what you got for us?
All right. Well, my attaboy goes to it's going to go to Sandfall Interactive for putting out such a unique kind of seemingly beloved cult classic in Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. A team of 30 people, ex-Ubisoft people. Right, you might expect them to make a Ubisoft-style game as their first outing, but they seem to have gone all out with this game, and people love it, and I've downloaded it. I actually meant to start it last night, but I was trying to our social media stuff has been broken for so long that it's finally fixed, and now I'm just adding our stuff to the social media, so I didn't get to play it a lot, or I didn't get to play it at all, actually. But shout out to them, because that game looks so fascinating and interesting, and it kind like the aesthetic kind of reminds me of the Order a little bit, the Order 1886, which I think I'm one of the few people who actually liked that game when it came out. So shout out to them. Really, really great. On the other hand, Get It Together. Stick with me. Microsoft. Get It Together.
Whoa.
It's gonna be good.
Clearly doing the marketing for Clair Obscur. Clearly a really big hit, right? Clearly something really great for them on Game Pass, right? So what do we do the same exact week this game comes out? Shadow Drop Oblivion. What are you fucking doing? That's it.
I cannot argue with you on that one.
I mean, look, I like my Xbox. I like Xbox's games. But there is no question that Josh and I have been saying this on Xbox shows we've been doing for almost a decade now. Aaron Greenberg needs fired. He needed fired 10 years ago. They market controllers you can't purchase better than they market their own damn games. Okay? They just figure it out.
He's got a point.
You have an awesome game here. Don't shadow drop another big ass game right on top. Oh my god. Suck. Anyways, Clair Obscur. Go play it. I guess you can play Oblivion too. Just letting you know. Put a sour taste in your mouth. Aaron Greenberg, sour, salty something in your mouth.
That was fun. That was fun. All right, well, we're coming up to the end of the show. Before we go, we gotta let you know what we've all been playing this past week. Sam, I'm gonna throw it to you first since you are our guest.
Yeah. Well, right now, like I said, I'm coming up on the end of Metaphor Refantasio.
Awesome. I try not to let my ADD get the best of me, but yeah, like
so
I am in the middle of playing Monster Hunter
Cyberpunk,
Wilds, of
Clair
course,
Obscur 33,
as well as
start
Lunar
streaming,
Remaster Collection, because like
T5R for
it
people
takes
at
me
some
back to a
point.
happy spot in a time when I was
kind of
when
just
I
like
loved playing
sort of keeping all those
JRPGs.
balls in the air.
And I'm
ADD,
also
and I can't
messing with
just
Clair
focus on one game
Obscur
at one time.
Expedition 33. Now, I just want to go ahead and say this, and I'm pretty sure other people who are wiser and much more better at video games have said this before me, but I swear, Expedition 33, I feel like turn-based RPG gaming is back. Oh my god. I didn't play enough of Metaphor Refantasio, but I feel like Expedition 33 is giving Refantasio a run for its money. And I'm just in the beginning of the game and stuff like that. I just got the baseline, the story out the way. I've messed around with the combat system and stuff like that. Man, it's pretty refreshing. Like, you know, like for a new turn-based RPG to get my attention like this, that speaks volumes because Corey and Stephanie, you guys know, like I'm not a fan of like modern RPGs, you know. So it takes a lot for me to you know, like get into the motion of wanting to play one of these games, stuff like that. Expedition 33 though, like, oh my god, like, you know, it's like poetry in motion, in my opinion. And like, I love everything about the combat system, in my opinion. Well, I don't know, I haven't gotten far enough into it yet, but the combat system, in my opinion, is not super convoluted to the point where you need to know like all these little tips, tricks, and, you know, like all these gimmicks and stuff, like to have fun with it and stuff like that. I think this is going to be a good game, and I think it's probably going to be one of the games I can actually like get add to my games I will beat this year. You know, which that's a hard feat in itself for me because, you know, I play too much Monster Hunter. There's no such thing as too much Monster Hunter, by the way. I just play a lot of it. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing. For those Monster Hunter fans out there right now, as we speak right now, like the second half of the spring of the Blossom Dance Festival is happening. Arc Tempered Ray Dow is in the game now. Go get your asses kicked. Yep, I'm done.
All right. Well, I'll go quick because it's not much. I've been playing a lot of games with my kids, and my son and I played through some of Mario, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and man, I tell you what, he likes to play the same like 4 levels. I could probably speed run them with my eyes closed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just gonna throw that out there. And then we've been playing more Super Mario Party Jamboree, and my wife ruined my daughter's night the other night because we were playing, and my daughter like won the main game, right? Like she got the most stars, she won the most mini games. The bonus stars, my wife got the bonus star to put her ahead and win the game. And well, my daughter was excited because she never wins, right? Like she just, you know,
Mario Party ruins friendships and breaks up families.
Oh man, it was.
Hey, obviously your daughter's not good enough for you to take it. Isn't that like a?
She's 6.
Hold on. Is that like a parenting thing though? Like to leave your kids wanting more? Like, you know, like to push them to the point where they almost get ruthless in their drive to beat you.
I think it depends on the child, but some of the things. Jeez. I mean, here's the thing. I think my daughter needed a win this week for a few reasons, and that was going to be it, and it just didn't happen.
I'm not sure. Are we taking parenting advice from Shonen Jump again?
Hey, I played a very mediocre to bad game of Mario Party on purpose. Okay, I always win, and so I was like, I'll just give them all one this time.
No, you were doing. Actually, let me shut up because I don't have kids. I'm an uncle to a few. Well, I'm uncle or honorary like second cousin to a few, but I don't have kids, and it's always been a thing where nah, like you have to earn this. And you know what? I understand Mario Party will rob the shit out of you when you're not ready for it. I just love that new mechanic where you walk past something and stars get stolen from you.
Yeah, I just you know, she did really well, and she was very proud of herself, and you know, wasn't my fault though, so I got off scot-free.
Hey, that's between your daughter, your wife, and Nintendo.
I shot my wife a look. I was like, you just you know what you're in for the rest of the night.
The meltdown. Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm done. That's all I've been playing. I've been I've been working like nonstop for what feels like 6 months.
Oh,
Nights, weekends, days, dreams, you name it. That's
All right.
almost done.
Well, there it is. It's time to wrap the show up. We did it. We're about to cross the finish line.
Did Stephanie didn't go?
I thought you did. Oh, my bad. My bad.
Come on, you
I'm
pulled
so
a Corey.
sorry, Steph. I'm so sorry.
This is like the time I left you out.
Stephanie usually has always gone by this point, so that's totally my fault. That's totally my fault.
See what happens when you introduce her first? You forget her the rest of the show.
I'll send you a bag of gummy savers.
Okay. No, well, to piggyback off of you, Corey, I actually played some Mario Party Jamboree during my vacation with my son. Oddly enough, that was, well, anyway, what's more infuriating is losing to a CPU.
Blame me, I talk too much.
Princess Peach has wiped the floor with us 2 out of the 4 games, and she's just now public enemy number 1 for me. So that's enough of that.
That bitch.
I am killing off my backlog little by little before some major games are coming out this summer, and one of them is Return of the Obra Dinn. Very neat. Love the art style and the cool mechanics. The only problem is that I'm kind of stupid, and I'm not really good at figuring out puzzles because you're supposed to figure out what happened on the Obra Dinn, and by doing that, you need to go back in time with memories and figure out. You need to identify who the person is, the manner of which they died, and by whom or what. And some of them are really easy to figure out, the majority are not. I got every single memory. I've replayed them all. I've reviewed the book. At the end of the game, they gone through how many things you figured out, and it said the guy who hired you to solve the mystery says he eventually died. He was just so disappointed by the results that he he could not recover. So the game shamed me for doing a horrible job.
Wow.
So great game, but I'm just too stupid for puzzly games like that. I'm not even trying to do the self-deprecating humor. Like my job, I have a doctor's degree in pharmacy, but when it comes to just puzzles and games and shit, I'm so stupid. Um, After I finished that, I actually just started Chicory, A Colorful Tale. That is fun. It's hard to color things precisely on a Switch, which triggers my OCD, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm working on that, so hopefully I can finish Chicory soon, and that's 2 more games in my backlog.
You're awesome.
Nice.
That was everything, right? That's everything, everybody, right? I'm so sorry, Stephanie. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
You're fired. You know what? You're doing me a favor at this point.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. All right, it's time to wrap this show up. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. Sam, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us tonight. You were awesome. You were fun. Let everybody know where they can find you at if you want. We'll put it in our chat, and we'll make sure it gets to the show notes.
My pleasure, absolutely.
I'll make sure to tag you.
Yep.
Currently, I'm at strangelibrary.com on Blue Sky. I will put that in the. I apparently can't put that in the chat, but I'll put that in private.
Hell yeah.
All right.
And that's pretty much the best place to find me right now is there, because you will get a decent amount of shit posting, depression posting, and shameless promotion of my own work. So all good things. yeah, other than that, Boss Rush, as I said, Reactor Magazine is, or reactormag.com is where my column is right now. It's finishing up in August.
You're fine. You're fine.
But it's
You're
April
welcome
right
back
now,
at any
so it's
time,
still
by the
going
way.
once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was awesome to
The
have
last
you on.
article
You had
was The
some
King in
really
Yellow,
awesome
which we
input.
had a lot
Thank
of,
you.
or rather, the Repair of Reputations from The King of Yellow, which I had a lot of fun with. And yeah, thank you for having me on here, and thank you for putting up with me not shutting up for long
As
periods
a
of
reminder,
time.
you can catch
So-
new episodes of this show every Thursday on your podcast service of choice over on YouTube. If you are subscribed to Patreon, you can get this show ad free along with other perks like exclusive pre-show content and other
I'll wait till
early
the
access
next time
content.
you need to fill space.
Please check out our merch and find all of our
But yeah,
content over
thank
at
you very
bossrush.net.
much.
Corey, Stephanie, always a pleasure. I love you guys. Like I feel like this show does not happen because the three of us. It does not happen when we're not here, and that's true.
That's a great statement, LeRon. It does not happen when we are not here.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Boss Rush podcast. It doesn't happen when we're not.
I'm sorry. According to my watch, even though I went to bed last night like 10:30 last night, according to my watch, like I got shit for sleep, and it was only like 3.5 hours total. So yeah, so my brain is mush, and and I think I'm ready to go to bed again. So please, hey everyone, this has been episode 273 of the Boss Rush Podcast, the flagship show for the Boss Rush Network. Please come back and join us next week for another all-new episode. And like I said, like, comment, subscribe, share. Like, we want to hear from you. Like, hit us up on all our socials, and we will be back next week for another all-new show. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.